I never thought I'd see my wife chained outside in the freezing dark, trembling on the porch swing my father built with his own hands. The HOA president called it a violation of community standards. I called it war. And Patricia Holloway had no idea that one phone call from me could bring her entire empire crashing down. Act 1. The Spark of Conflict. My name's Daniel Mercer. I've lived in this neighborhood for almost a decade. I pay my dues, I mow my lawn, I don't bother anyone. But none of that mattered to Patricia, our self-proclaimed queen of the HOA. Clipboard in hand, heels clicking like a gavel, she ruled the cul-de-sac through fear. That night I came home from work to find my wife, Emily, locked behind a chain on our own porch swing. Her lips were pale, her breath fogging in the sharp December air. Patricia stood smugly on the walkway, dangling the padlock key like it was some kind of trophy. "You signed the agreement," she said. "Non-compliant fixtures are subject to enforcement. Don't test me." The fixture she was talking about was a swing. Not just any swing, the last thing my dad built before cancer took him. His initials are carved into the frame. And it was Emily's sanctuary after her surgery, the only spot where she could breathe fresh air without feeling trapped inside. Patricia knew all that, and still she shackled my wife in the cold like some prop in her power play. I wanted to snap right, then my fists clenched, my jaw locked, but I knew better. Patricia thrived on outbursts. She would twist every word, every action, and bury me in paperwork. So I bit back my anger, cut the chain with a bolt cutter from the shed, and carried Emily inside. The chain clattered onto the porch like a verdict. By morning, Patricia had already escalated. A bright red violation notice was taped to my door. Bold letters, "Immediate removal required." And when I opened my mailbox, a whole stack of fines, weeds, trash bins, lighting things she made up out of thin air. None of it enforceable, but all of it designed to bury me under fear. And you know what? It worked. Neighbors stopped waving. Curtains snapped shut when I walked outside. Even Mrs. Green, who never missed a chance to gossip, suddenly found her roses fascinating when I passed. Patricia's message was clear: cross me, and I'll make your life hell. And for the first time, I wondered if maybe she was right. Act 2. Escalation and doubt. I tried to ignore it at first. I tried to keep my head down. But Patricia wasn't content with just chaining Emily once. She wanted submission. She wanted me broken. The next violation notice threatened foreclosure. Foreclosure. All because of a porch swing. That night, sitting at the window watching the clubhouse lights shimmer across the lake, I asked myself, was I crazy for fighting this? Was I putting Emily at risk just to cling to some piece of wood my dad left behind? I actually thought about selling, leaving, cutting my losses. And that right there was the lowest point. The point where she almost won. But then I remembered who I was. I wasn't just some homeowner. I was a structural engineer with 2 decades of experience. I knew codes inside and out. I knew how buildings were supposed to be built, and more importantly, how they failed. So I stopped seeing the clubhouse as Patricia's throne and started seeing it for what it really was, a liability. The wiring sagged dangerously low. The stair tread warped like a trap waiting to snap. The foundation cracked along the side. To any other neighbor it looked festive with its string lights and fresh paint. To me, it looked like a ticking bomb. And then fate handed me an ally. Mara Jennings, HOA treasurer, Patricia's so-called right hand. She was quiet, timid, always shuffling papers like she wanted to disappear. But one afternoon I saw her clutching a stack of envelopes, hands shaking, eyes darting toward Patricia's house. She dropped her rake in the driveway and whispered to me. She knew. About the stairs. About the wiring. Patricia covered it up. That changed everything. Mara admitted Patricia had diverted $20,000 from the maintenance budget into clubhouse improvements, furniture, paint, vanity projects. The money meant to fix dangerous issues had been stolen to polish her stage. I finally had what I needed: insider confirmation. Still, the fear lingered. Patricia had driven families out before. She had the board in her pocket. And even with evidence, I wasn't sure anyone would believe me. But Emily, pale, fragile, yet stronger than she looked, put her hand on mine and said, "Then you make them see it." So I built my case. Photos, financial records, code references, eyewitness accounts, piece by piece like a blueprint for demolition. I showed the Garcias their son had nearly fallen through the warped step. I showed the Carsons their daughter scraped her leg on the splintering handrail Patricia refused to fix. I didn't need a mob. I just needed people to stop feeling alone. And slowly I saw it in their eyes, anger replacing fear. Patricia wanted me isolated. Instead, I was building a coalition. And then came the twist, the inspectors. I filed my report with the city. Every photo, every code violation, every ledger entry Mara had flagged. When I clicked submit, my hands shook, but my gut told me this wasn't just paperwork. It was a wrecking ball. Act 3. The Showdown. Patricia's big board meeting was Thursday night. Her SUV gleamed out front, parked sideways like she owned the pavement. Inside, neighbors filled every chair, some standing shoulder to shoulder against the walls. The air buzzed with tension, half holiday cheer from the decorations, half static from weeks of fear. Patricia sat at the head of the table, clipboard pressed flat under her palm like it was a gavel. Her smile was sharp, rehearsed. "We'll begin," she said, with non-compliance fines. "Mr. Mercer's violations remain unresolved. Swing removal is still pending. Additional penalties have been issued." Murmurs rippled through the room. Someone whispered, "She chained his wife." Heads turned toward me. I stood slowly, calm, deliberate, and I laid my photos across the table. Warped stairs, exposed wiring, cracked foundation. "This isn't about swings," I said. "It's about safety. The clubhouse you're sitting in right now is a hazard." The room stirred. Parents leaned in. A man muttered, "That's where my kid fell last summer." Patricia slammed her pen down. "Enough. These are exaggerated claims meant to distract from his refusal to follow rules. He has a history of—" That's when the doors opened. 2 city inspectors stepped inside, jackets with badges, clipboards in hand. "Good evening," one said. "We received a report of potential code violations. We'll need to conduct a preliminary review immediately." The entire room went still. Patricia's face drained white, then flushed red. She stood abruptly, voice cracking as she forced a brittle smile. "This is highly irregular." "No," the inspector cut her off. "We have the process, and it begins now." Boots echoed against the warped stair tread. A loud creak. The inspector's voice rang out, non-compliant, immediate hazard. Gasps spread through the crowd. Parents pulled kids closer. And then Mara stood, hands trembling, voice thin but clear. She knew she said, "The reports came in months ago. Patricia diverted the funds. She told me to cover it up." The room exploded. Shouts, anger, demands for answers. Patricia slammed her clipboard against the table, shouting, "That's a lie, Mara. How dare you?" But the inspector raised his hand. "Until further notice, this facility is closed. Condemned pending compliance." The word condemned rang like a church bell. Patricia froze, her smirk gone. Her pen slipped from her fingers and clattered onto the table. The neighbors who once cowered in silence now looked at her with fury. I gathered my photos with calm precision. "You chained my wife outside in the cold," I said, my voice steady. "But tonight, Patricia, you chained yourself." For the first time, she had nothing to say. Closing beat. The very next morning, yellow tape stretched across the clubhouse doors. Patricia's crown jewel, her throne, was dark, silent, and condemned. Her power collapsed the moment someone refused to bow.